Okay, so we're going to start with a little color mixing exercise here, and I'm using a butcher's tray for my palette. It's a little bowed in the center, and then the paint and water flow into the sides there, which is good for when you want to make some nice grays. But today we're just using the saturated colors, and I've got phthalo for the blue, and rose for the pink, and lemon yellow. So I've got a warm blue and cool yellow and a cool pink, and make a nice blue dot to start, and I'm going to go around and make a little uh, color wheel with just using little dots of colors. So we got the primaries, and now I'll make the secondaries. Mix some green with the blue and the yellow. Got a green dot, and now I'll mix some purple by pulling in some pink and some blue. And that purple will be a little bit dull because we got a warm blue mixing with a cool red. So the blue will dull it down. And then we mix the cool yellow with the cool pink, and that gives sort of a dulled down orange. So those are the main colors we're going to be using for the painting. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the drawing quickly now. And you see I've got my pencil really loose and holding it more towards the end, so I'm not squeezing it with my fingers at the base. I'm just putting in some loose shapes of these angelfish and sort of scribble drawing and overlapping one over the other. And then I will just kind of put some marks across them to give them a little bit of form. So I'll just place these in, build them up slowly. And then if you can see, I put a little bit of tape around the edge of the paper because I'm working on a block and I don't want the paint to seep into the layers underneath it, which can happen sometimes when you're using a lot of water. One more fish. And then this is a block of Fabriano paper, and it's 140 pound and fine grain, 100% cotton, most important part. And here's our drawing. You can stop and pause and get your drawing done, or email me for it if you want. Okay, so now we're ready to start painting, and we're going to lay in some yellow first. It's the lightest color. We'll start going from lightest to darkest, and we want the yellow to be pure, like we're not dulling down our colors, so we're not overly mixing things. So in this case, we don't want to corrupt our colors too much, and I'm just going to drop in some yellow here and there. And I've got this a little bit sped up, so next I start just laying in some blue and yellow mix, and I'm going around the shape of the fish, but letting the areas that the fish are wet already touch so that it bleeds into one another, but just doing the negative painting around the outsides of the fish. And this is a first wash, and these are all the lightest colors. So I've got pure yellow inside the fish, and then a mix of blue and yellow going around the outside of them in the water. And I'm painting flat. You don't need to be on a hill for this one. It's okay if you get some blossoms, don't worry about it. But you got yellow and blue, so there's variation going all around and a little bit of stuff bleeding in and out of the fish. So then stop and go ahead and dry your painting completely, and that will be the end of the first stage. Okay, so we're going to add on another layer of color now and brighten up these fish a little bit more with some oranges, mixing your yellow and pink again, and layer on some different kinds of stripes, and then come in with just some water on your brush and soften those edges. Add a little bit of purple. So while it's wet, you can keep dipping orange and pink back into it and purple. Get some nice pretty colors. I keep adjusting the color as I go because as it dries, it'll get a lot lighter, and since it's all wet, tends to soften it as it's drying a lot. So I keep pumping up the colors by dashing in more pigment. And I'm also being careful to reserve a little bit of white so I'm not over painting my fish. And this one here, I'm making him more on the purple side to push him into the background because the purple and blues are receding colors. So you can stop here again, and this is the time to dry. This is the end of the second phase. Okay, so now we'll start laying in the other fish. We'll do the same thing, painting on some stripes with the oranges and pinks, softening the edges and leaving some whites. And that one, I added a little blue to that one. He's going to be pushed into the background more. But I'm trying not to let the colors get too dirty. I want to keep everything kind of bright and fresh so that they're like tropical fish. Now I'm going around doing the negative painting for the water, and those fish are still wet, and that's fine. I'll let them bleed into the water a little bit, and then we will have a combination of both hard and soft edges, because the fish that we painted earlier will have nice crisp edges, and these new ones will kind of bleed out into the water a bit. Just get some areas a little darker, build it up slowly. And get that guy a little more fuzzy, and that one a little more fuzzy. Then I'll stop after this and dry it again. And so there is the end of the next stage. So this next stage, we're getting our water darker around the fish. And so we're doing some more negative painting. And this will really help bring those fish forward nicely. And so I've got some hard edges and some soft edges, like on the fish that I want to push back, have him a little bit softer. And I'm not going dark over the entire thing. Get some extra shadows in between those guys to give some extra separation there. But still keeping that one kind of softer so he goes behind. And let's work my way around these fish, but I don't go over the whole thing with dark. And you can also adjust the shapes of your fish as you're doing this part too. But we're going to use our darks to connect everything. And so as it's wet, I keep dashing in more darks into it. And keep everything flowing kind of in the motion as the fish are swimming. Give it like a current. And just keep shaping the fish. But I have the light areas and then that dark path which is connecting all those fish. So I did that one pass around with the darks and then dry it again. Okay, so now I'm going to come in and add even more shadows. Give the fish a little bit more of a sense of form. Adding just little bits of blues and purple, especially around the front of their face, and then giving them some eyes and dropping in the eyes while it's wet so that they are a little fuzzy and soft. You don't want big, hard, dark circles. And then I'm also going to touch up the darks around the fish and connect them a little bit more because we need those darks to connect things to hold the composition together. So I'm just mixing up some more darks, and to make the darkest dark, you can make almost a black by mixing the blue and the pink for that dark purple, and then just touching in little bits of the yellow. And that should give you an almost black color. So I'm using that in some areas around the fish, and then making that connection with them better. But remember, you don't want the whole thing to be dark. It's just the path and the current. There, and then just touch up the eyes a little bit more and dry it again. So here it's almost done. I just went back and added some extra scribble marks, and I felt like it still needed a little more connection, so I'm going to go back in and just darken in that little center a little bit more. So I'm going to mix up some more dark stuff and just fill in that area where there was kind of a gap. Add a little more to him. And then kind of just balance the composition a little bit better. But you see how the darks tie everything in together nicely. You're not going over the whole thing still. So then just soften those edges and keep the light areas, and then that's it.